You see, I love food, and I've traveled the world eating it. Food has been my life. I've traveled the world shopping and learning about how the best food is produced, uncovering both hidden and obvious blueprints to what leads to exceptional food. In fact, mastery of the craft consumed the first 25 years of my career and really has kept me driven throughout. If you notice on my channel, there's not a lot of food videos simply because I want to focus on being a great chef, not being a great cook. That's called a chef. Now, I've learned that to become a good chef, a cook must be obsessed with food. Also, that growing as a chef means going way beyond the food in order to manage all the variables that we inevitably encounter. Now, in this video, I'll be sharing the 5 steps to go beyond the food so that you can have the structure that allows you to thrive as a leader and be equipped to handle your most urgent problems. I implemented this exact approach with executive chef Sean Berry so that he could quickly identify and capitalize on early wins with his team, set clear boundaries, and maintain focus on the most critical priorities while adopting a new property, all while staying true to his values. This allowed him not only to stabilize the operation, but also to elevate the overall performance of his kitchen, leading with clarity and confidence after implementing a strong structure from beyond the food. And if you're ready to take your leadership to that next level and implement the systems that move you beyond the food, I'd love to help. Schedule a call with me today using the link below, and let's work together to build the structure that you need to lead effectively, thrive creatively, and evolve continuously. I came to the realization along the way, craft is a key part of what it takes to be a great chef. But the majority of the problems that we must resolve in our role occur far before the food ever hits the plate or is served to our guests. The challenges that we encounter could absolutely fill a laundry list. However, the overwhelming majority of our problems fall into one of 8 problem areas: craftsmanship, vision and strategy, budgeting of resources, staffing and command, delegation and communication, guest experience and execution, resilience and agility, and counterbalance. All these problems are the result of something much deeper. They're symptoms. Now, sometimes that's from abdication, sometimes that's neglect, sometimes awareness. So, in my view, making videos of cooking is just creating more distraction and not allowing me to connect the cause and the effect of the deeper concepts that rule our lives in the kitchen. Now let's get into it. When people see a chef, they very often have this image in their head about the flash in the pan. And for all of us who live the life, you know that the flash in the pan is just one moment in time, and that the success at that instant, in that moment, is the result of countless hours of planning, mise en place, and execution. And as I've found, a common misconception is that the mise en place for a chef is the same as the mise en place as it is for a cook, a CDP, a CDC, or a sous. Of course, we're responsible for making sure that all of that's done, and we're responsible for getting it done, but that doesn't mean that we're responsible to do it. Mise en place for an EC requires an elevated approach, an X-ray vision of sorts to see the cause and effect that all of those non-food components have on the final product. When you pay attention to the deeper cause and effect, you gain the power to determine and predict those outcomes. So, what do you need to do? Well, like I said, there's 5 steps. And the 5 steps to getting beyond the food so that you can build the structure that keeps your operation thriving is: first, get resourceful. Second, map and align your processes. Third, package your expertise. Fourth, execute regardless. And then 5, evolve, ideally continuously. Step 1, getting resourceful. The biggest mistake that executive chefs make is living on this hamster wheel of constant reaction, being pulled constantly, running around from problem to problem, and putting out fires, some that we've started, many that we haven't. Inevitably, that leads to our burnout and our frustration. And that's because we become programmed to react to everyone else's needs and only able to see very clear emergency indicators, and those always keep us from working on the big picture and the big picture work that only we can work on. It's often easiest to slip right back in front of the stove and bang, but that keeps us, again, from working through our days without a plan and reacting to the constant pulls without ever looking at the strategy and the bigger picture stuff. And that ripples and makes it impossible to find the time that we need to in order to take care of the responsibilities that only we can. And that's why it's so important to get super resourceful. and fully wrap your hands around all of your resources, but specifically the resource that is time, which, in my opinion, it's the most neglected resource that we need to manage. It's impossible to stay a chef for long without the management of finances, cost of goods, labor, facilities, and the people that are around us. And that's why it's best to start with fully grasping the management of time, because it leads to much more effective resourcefulness and, above all, availability to properly manage all of those other resources. The benefit of this is not finding yourself at the end of the day staring at a computer screen after everyone is left for home, trying to figure out where to start, and living on the wheel resolving constant emergencies. And in order to do this, it's really easy to incorporate some sort of planner into your life, but use it. Create and generate a plan for your days and your weeks ahead. Understand where your time's going and anticipate as much as humanly possible all that you can. Now, the next step is mapping and aligning your processes, because the next major hurdle that chefs encounter is sharing what's in your head and communicating in a relatable fashion, because the vast majority of us become executive chefs based on the food that we cook, and because as cooks, we were successful in doing most of the things ourselves. This habit of doing leads to building systems around ourselves, which actually prevents us from scaling our leadership. And it also makes it impossible to sort and prioritize what's most important and in need of doing, because we're constantly trapped in doing this urgent thing, this urgent task that's immediately in front of us, which keeps us chipping away at a never-ending to-do list instead of focusing on what moves the operation forward. When we do everything ourselves, this leaves the team to feeling unneeded, unchallenged, and it leads to us being out of balance. In order to avoid this, we need to create a clear vision of where we want to go, map the steps that we take to achieve our results, and develop our ability to strongly communicate and most effectively communicate those things with the people that are around us. Once that's clear, it's possible to align what needs to be done with who should be doing it and how it should be done, so that the results are not an accident, but completely by design. One of my rules is that hope is not a strategy for success. It's a rule, it's a reminder. It helps me understand my doing in making sure that we have a strategy in order to accomplish the tasks by design. And when you can map your process and align them with the big picture objectives, that's when it's possible to build and lead a consistent culinary program with a full pipeline of employee prospects, streamlined communication, and organization focused on genuine principles aligned with leadership and culinary values. It's that kind of thinking beyond the food that keeps me up at night, because it doesn't matter what I can cook. What matters as the chef is what my team or teams can cook and how consistently they can deliver that product. So in case you missed it here, right, what it comes down to is starting with a clear vision, mapping the steps that you take to achieve that result, aligning the vision and the process with a clear goal, and then being able to communicate that. Now remember, a small little reminder, communication means that both sides understand what's being communicated and conversed. It's not a one-way street. Next comes step 3, packaging that expertise, packaging those steps and all of those processes. And so most chefs that I know have a kitchen playbook, a binder, their version of their cuisine playbook. At least that's what I call it in my operations. This book generally contains recipes, some ratios, possibly some station guides, maybe a checklist or two, some of which I'm sure could use an update. And that's an excellent start. In the bigger picture, it's probably no surprise that the single most significant thing that you can do as a chef, and the largest contributor to the majority of a team's success in executing a chef's vision, is a clear playbook based on your expertise, your standards, and the guides that you have. The more work you do to package your expertise, the more clear the roadmap that the team has to arrive at repeated success. Organizing your resources, the processes you've mapped, and shifting into a project manager mindset allows us all to elevate above being an artist in a one-man show to being a leader. Managers need processes to manage, leaders need managers in order to lead. Taking the time to set up clear and consistent expectations by packaging your expertise so that you have clear training programs, checklists, organized materials, and clear success indicators evolves you from culinary artist to methodical scientist to effective administrator. That's why a focus on organizing and packaging the systems and processes, aka your expertise, leads to benchmarking success for the day-to-day and prevents chaos, while at the same time gives the management the foundation it needs to manage and you the structure to lead. I think the minimum pieces are recipes, station guides, and ratios. And if you already have your own book, take it to the next level by incorporating a component from the cuisine playbook that I use to organize my clients. From a section like a welcome packet, or making sure that your onboarding or training is a little bit more streamlined, making sure that you have a clear culinary profile, a HACCP plan, leadership, make sure that your cultural terminology is established, generate your outlet profiles, make sure that your SOPs are in there, if they're clear and if they're defined, or your requirements. Any one of those pieces helps establish and communicate that which keeps your operation operating consistently the way you design. Next, step 4, execute, because nothing matters if you can't. Running the business of a kitchen requires execution, and the trick is to think of it in terms of constant, growing improvement. Elevation to the role of executive chef or in culinary director means managing everything that you've done to this point, as well as a slew of new tasks and responsibilities that you haven't. In a lot of cases, that nobody has. And this is my reminder to you to remember that execution looks very different at every level of the journey. So just as you have likely experienced the first time doing anything, it's going to suck. So execution in the beginning looks like just getting it done and being okay with that. And then it's up to us to learn, refine, and keep refining and be okay with that, because done beats perfect if perfect never gets done. And as a perfectionist, sometimes recovering, sometimes sinking into regression, it was and still is really hard for me to accept, but it's necessary to not hold out for something to be perfect and to get it out there and to improve it through the failures and the lessons that we learn. Because failure is a part of every process. So developing a resilience regardless of failure is a trait that chefs must become well acquainted with and not consumed by. And so the piece here is to make sure that you're not getting stuck in a perfect mindset, in trying to make things perfect. Things don't have to stay the way that they are, and rarely, very rarely, do things start out perfect the first time. So get things done. And then finally, step 5 is evolve. Everything in our career is about evolution, constant and never-ending improvement. In the beginning, it's based on the feedback that we receive from our chefs, our teachers, our mentors, and eventually, it's based on the feedback we learn to give ourselves or seek from coaches and consultants. What's always there is that feedback is guided by our guests, the people around us, and those that direct us. And this should lead to creating a feedback loop that becomes the key to evolving and continuing to evolve your operation. That feedback loop provides a tremendous amount of information as far as what you do that works, what's not, what you need to start doing, what you need to stop doing. And in my mind, predictable and consistent execution of intended results are the ideal symptoms of a properly tuned culinary program. As the director, it's our responsibilities to recognize that. When that's working, it translates to dishes and guest experiences that meet and exceed the established expectations. Quality, taste, and presentation delivered on purpose. And that's the clear sign that you have the structure in place to run your operation effectively. Attract the right talent and stay energized, thriving, and able to evolve, prepared for any problem that comes up in any of the domains that we deal with in our day-to-day. So if you're ready to take your leadership to that next level and implement the systems that move you beyond the food, I'd love to help. Schedule a call with me today using the link below, and let's work together to build the structure you need to lead effectively, thrive creatively, and evolve continuously. As chefs, we start with an obsession for food, but true growth comes from moving beyond it. By mastering these 5 steps, getting resourceful, mapping and aligning your processes, packaging your expertise, executing consistently, and evolving continuously, you can build the structure that ensures success, not just for yourself, but for your entire operation. Success isn't just about the flash in the pan, it's about the systems and the intentional actions that allow these moments to happen the right way time and time again. Predictable, consistent execution creates the foundation for thriving as a chef, as a leader, and as a mentor. Share this with somebody who could use it. Take a moment to like and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you so much for spending your time with me and watching this video. And remember, that although the food is important, don't use it as a distraction. It's one part of the equation. The true art of leadership is in building the systems and the structure that allow your team to succeed with clarity and confidence. See you next time.